Hey everyone, it's Dawn. I'm just recording a brief audio today about my book, Cultivating Essence from the Matrix of Soul. This is a book that I first published in or shared publicly in 2012. I finally wrote it down late 2011. I think it was November of that year. I had carried it around in my heart for, about 12 years since 1999, and it's difficult for me to explain still after all these years, because it just sort of like this body of work just like plop. It was in my heart and soul, and I was living and breathing it. And I knew it was a message I was given to share with the world, but I was terrified of it in the beginning, mostly because of my religious upbringing, my background, and the whole, I already was feeling labeled as crazy or otherwise, not belonging to this world. And so to release that at that time felt like crazy. But I finally, sat down. And again, when I say it was embedded in me, it was literally like all of these the core passages, what became the 90 Seeds for Life that are in the book Seeds for Life, and are the core of the Life Seeds core curriculum for living in full expression. And I have shared in online journeys, and we'll do that again soon, and also through the Cultivating Essence book series, which includes 3 books: Awakening the World Within, Finding Your Forward Flow, and Embracing a New Vision for the Nexus of Change. And the first one of those, Awakening the World Within, is available on Amazon. The other 2 are not yet publicly available. But the core passages, the 90 core passages, like literally they were just inside of me, and I would live and breathe them. And every day I would be pulled back to one or the other of them. And it was like internally within me, there were these little points of connection, and I could see it was like a star map, and I thought of it that way, but which again seemed like that wasn't something I said ever. Actually, this is the first time I think I've actually said it out loud. I may have written it once or twice, but it was like it was a reconnection for my soul to remember who I was, and I knew it was about remembering the light and the life and the love that I am and that you are and that we are together, because together we are that star map. And so this particular audio is to talk about the title, Cultivating Essence from the Matrix of Soul. I remember when I first wrote it all down, in 2011, and then shortly thereafter, in early 2012, maybe even before I released the free ebook that was downloaded a couple of thousand times. But somebody I was speaking with about the project, actually 2 different times, people asked me, now, what does that mean, a matrix of soul? And literally the question completely freaked me out both times, because I didn't know. I had no idea what it meant. I don't know. I don't even know what cultivating essence meant. I surely didn't know what from the matrix of soul meant. Now, I knew that my soul was calling to lead the way, and I had been subjugating it and pushing it down and saying, no, I'm in charge here, and leading from ego. And there was this battle for all those years. Well, in the beginning, I think when I was a child, I had more of the truth, but I took some, left turns, and then, like all of us, got mired down in the matrix of this reality, right? And lost in it. And so I remember when these 2 conversations, and the 2 people just kind of innocently asked me, well, what does that mean? And I had no idea. And really, to be honest, so I'm recording this in March of 2019. So that's 7 years after the first release of the material publicly, but a good 20 years. Is that right? 1999? Yes, 20 years since it's been with me. It's like I'm still like not certain, but I felt the time was right to make a series of audios to talk about the title, and so I want to talk about matrix, and so the matrix of soul, because I do have a clearer understanding now, and it does go back to that initial image that I had of the star map, and basically all the little points being lit up, but not in a linear fashion, in a very dynamic and multi-dimensional and just a like constellations, but that were not on a flat map, but that had depth and dimension, and not even just considering it's hard to describe, but it's like a whole. It's more than worlds or universes or multiverses. It's like more than that even. And so that's what this matrix always was for me. And that's why I never had an answer to when people would ask me. So let's look. The definition of matrix is an environment or material in which something develops, a surrounding medium or structure. Now, think about that. Think about what kind of matrix you developed within. Okay, and this is where our conditioning comes in, and our environment, and what has happened here on Earth is we have created many false structures, many false realities, many false matrices that look real, and we get trapped in the illusion. And that is the medium in which we are developing, in which we've placed our souls in a false structure that cannot sustain it. Now, you are a dynamic and sustainable system. We are all created as dynamic and sustainable systems, and we are fueled by the light and the life and the love that is the very foundation of life, and that is the one thing that connects us all. And so, matrix, the environment in which something develops, the surrounding medium. So the matrix of soul is something that we have completely pushed aside in this life, many of us individually, but it's just not something that has been until very recently, even in our awareness. And so the Matrix movies, of course, and other cultural references to the idea of a matrix, and think of a matrix too as sort of that structure, that blueprint, that it's like a template, right? And so what's the matrix of soul? Well, part of why I would get so freaked out through the years, and I got less so, but even recently, like a couple years ago, I remember having a conversation with somebody. I'm like, I was sort of touching on some of the ideas I'm going to share here, but I was still a little lost in it because I'm like, I don't know what that is, because all I knew is that there are endless pools of soul within you and me. They're endless. It's infinite. And just that, like that star map I was describing, that's the thing. It's infinite and ever changing. It's dynamic. You are dynamic. I am dynamic. We are dynamic. This world that we are creating, and that's one way you can tell the difference too between a false matrix and the matrix of soul. Is a false matrix will feel very rigid, and you'll be told that it's very confining and it's restrictive, and it is an absolute. Whereas the matrix of soul and all true nature paradigms are rooted, they're dynamic, and they're rooted in the idea of flourishing and growth. And they are inherent within the natural systems, and the matrix of soul are the seven wonders, what I call the seven wonders of the soul, which are faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, and beauty. And those are the structures, if you will, but they're not structures as we think of structures. They're, again, the reason it's sustainable. The reason that a dynamic and sustainable system is allowed is held and in the natural world, and then from that things are radiantly expanded. The reason that can happen is an underlying I don't have the right word. It's like forces, but it's more like streams, like rivers coming together, and it's that underlying life that is reflected in those seven wonders of faith, hope, and love being the foundational ones, and from those flow healing, growth, and passion, and then the culmination of all is beauty. And beauty is revealed in our world. And from the matrix of soul, these are always present. And in a false matrix or a false reality, those aren't even considered. because all that matters, the false structures and false hierarchies and false matrices exist to prop up or to sustain a particular belief system that isn't, it either is opposed to nature and working against true nature, or it is only a part. It's one little prop, one little, it's sustaining one over others. And in the matrix of soul and all true nature, natural systems and true nature realities, there is again, it's a living system. And in that living system, there are constant changes, not just in the environment around that living system, but in the living system itself. That's why it's called a living system. And so the matrix of soul, you'll find it's a fluid environment, and there are endless, infinite combinations and arrangements and reconfigurations, and it's all dynamic. And because it is dynamic, it is aligned with the life and the light and the love that are the very substance of who we are. And because there is that alignment and that natural affinity for and love is the basis of all of it. And because that is therefore, it is a sustainable system, if you will, and please put aside any negative connotations that you have with the word system, a sustainable system for flourishing humanity. It supports flourishing humanity. It supports full thriving in our lives. It supports you as you come to life and live in full expression. And the reason it supports you is because it is an environment in which you can develop, in which your soul can grow and radiantly expand, and where you can flourish in your life and in your life's work. And the reason that can happen is because that matrix of soul is not reducing or confining the whole of who you are. It's not only propping up one part of you, it's rather allowing you to discover who you are and then grow and respond to the sun and the rain and the other elements of our lives that are nourishing and nurturing. It's allowing you to respond to those in your own unique ways. It's allowing you to, in terms of our human forms, to discover our sacred seeds of essence and our fine gifts of original design, and then to really just celebrate, our singular magnificence, while also understanding that we are intricately connected with all of life and with many circles of belonging. And the matrix of soul does not limit. It's not limiting or confining or constricting or restricting, or it's not a path of reduction. Rather, it's a path of, or it's not a path of reduction or contraction. It's rather a path of expansion and infinite expansion, and not just in the ways that we think of growth and expansion as bigger. That's a false matrix will tell you it has to be about, traditionally this comes out in terms of looking at numbers or measures of growth that we have arbitrarily assigned. And there are infinite expressions that are evidences of the soul's growth and expansion and our maturity in terms of our humanity, and understanding that is never separate from divine love, which sustains our humanity and all else, all other living things. So also I just want to touch on the fact that from a matrix of soul environment, from within that medium or structure, there is an inherent and implicit agreement understanding of and agreement with the fact that, again, all of life is connected. Whereas in a false matrix, there are hierarchies and degrees and endless classification. It used to drive me nuts. It's funny because I loved studying the kingdoms and all that, the plant and animal and mineral kingdom. And I used to like science, and so I loved studying those because I haven't. It's funny, I'm so disorganized in my life, and I'm very creative, but I have a love for systems, and I really, part of my mission here, or, and purpose is to bring forth these new, what I call solar systems or life systems for living in full expression and for, full thriving in our life, in our life's work. So a matrix of soul will never, the sustainable, dynamic and sustainable systems for flourishing in your life will never reduce you to one classification and limit your curiosity and expansion and exploration. The three pathways of soul exploration, soul expression, and soul expansion are you're able to, from the matrix of soul, there's a freedom. There is such a freedom and a love that is infused in everything. Now, there's also an allowing of conditions that are ever changing, whereas in a false matrix, there is absolutely not an allowance of that and I'm going to get further into this when I write about it, but for now, so I hope this is making sense. So really, the invitation, so what I'm sharing this for is to help you understand what that means to cultivate essence from the matrix of soul. It means that when you do your inner work, when you look at who you are and who you have come to be, and you cultivate those, you treat your soul as a garden, and you weed out the what does not belong, the false beliefs and the false hierarchies, and you cultivate the beautiful garden of your soul, your sacred seeds of essence, and you bring them forward after you have really understood, who you are and your unique expression of that love that sustains us all and that we are never separate from. And so as you cultivate from your core, then and only then can you water the world with the fullest expression of who you are. And so that's what it means to cultivate essence, the essence of who you are, your essential self, your essential journey in this life, and your essential truth. And you cultivate those and you connect to those streams of wisdom and you bring them forth and you share them with all the world. So you cultivate essence from the matrix of soul, and then you come to life and live in full expression. And so these 90 seeds for life, which are the core passages of cultivating essence from the matrix of soul, are like a multidimensional star map that allows you to light up all of the circuits to reconnect where you've been disconnected. And disconnection is, in my way of looking at it, in my understanding of it at this point, disconnection is at the root of all, nearly all, if not all, personal and societal challenges and problems and blocks and barriers to our growth. And so the work of core connection, the work of integration and flow, the work of radiant expansion isn't really work at all, it's play. And we get to put on the farmer's clothes. There's actually one of the core passages that talks about this. We get to put on the farmer's clothes and return to a new agrarian society so that we can cultivate, because we are becoming soul gardeners. And why? Because we're ushering in a new revolution of love, a new era rich in love. We are uprooting what has not worked, and we are returning to an environment, a true matrix. We are resting in the love of God, in the love of this world, in the love that this world gives us, and the love that sustains us, because we are one with that. And we're returning to that and resting in it. And through that rest, we are restored. I always say rest is the portal to restoration. And in the true matrix of soul, which is infinite again in its expressions, and it is a dynamic and sustainable system. See, we have often in human history thought that something can't be dynamic and sustainable. It has to be rigid. It has to be, a structure. And blueprints and structures and systems, most definitely have their place. And I'm very passionate about that. And I just want to say briefly that, it's been, rather discouraging to me in these 7 years, because I've often, when I wrote All Systems Go about the 24 life systems and the fact that you are a dynamic and sustainable system, it was criticized and ridiculed even by people in spiritual circles, because, I was literally attacked by, several times in terms of, oh, you're off track, Dawn, because systems are a thing of the past. No, it's just that we have had a limited view, and we haven't been relying on living systems. We had not at that point returned to the understanding that we are held in an infinite grace, and that we are here to place ourselves in a much more gracious, a spacious grace, a much more a spacious milieu, or I don't know how to pronounce that word, but you get it, environment, or a medium or media that can sustain, because we put ourselves in these small little boxes. That's what happened, right? We created these tiny little systems designs that were way, way too confining for who we are at a soul level. And that is the beauty of these 90 Seeds for Life to me. And if this is not, this is in no way meant to, sell my systems, but this one isn't mine, but, the life systems are from, those are things that I created, Dawn. Cultivating Essence from the Matrix of Soul, the core passages, not the reflections and the other tools that I share, but the core passages they're completely from spirit. Like, I didn't make them up. Those aren't my words. I like some of them a lot, and there are some that still make me pretty darn uncomfortable. Like, I wanted to change the words. Well, I wanted to change the subtitle of the darn book, Cultivating Essence from the Matrix of Soul, Sustainable Systems for Flourishing Humanity. I was like, what? Like, who am I to say that? And again, something that I have I'm still coming to a deeper and deeper understanding of that as time goes by. And so the core of the Life Seeds core curriculum are these core passages of Cultivating Essence from the Matrix of Soul that return us to an environment that we were always meant to be in order that we might have life and have it to the full, that we might thrive, and that we might grow and blossom and become all of who we already are. And anything that limits that is a denial on some level of the fullness of who we are.